And while on the trail, Trump continues to feel the heat following comments he made about supporting companies for firing workers who go on strike during his conversation with Elon Musk. One labor union leader who had Trump's back now calling the threat economic terrorism in a statement to Politico. Let's bring in contributing political correspondent and co-author of Politico's Playbook, Rachel Bade. Rachel, good to see you again. So the Teamsters president may be lashing out on Trump, but he stopped short of a Harris endorsement. How significant is this, and how is Trump responding?
Look, the damage here very much is already done. I mean, yes, the Teamsters didn't support Harris or endorse her after this, but think about it. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Teamsters leader, Sean O'Brien, he actually went to the RNC. He was praising Donald Trump from the convention stage, calling him a, quote, tough SOB. And yet a couple weeks later, after this remark earlier this week, he is now equating what Donald Trump said to Elon Musk as to economic terrorism. Basically, this notion that people who go on strike should perhaps be fired. So this is not a good thing for Donald Trump. I mean, he has been working overtime to sort of reach out to these unions. He knows that in order to win these sort of Rust Belt states, places like Michigan and Wisconsin, he needs blue-collar workers. He needs them to turn out and support him. A lot of these folks are part of the unions. And this group in particular, the Teamsters, they were one of the few last big groups who hadn't endorsed. And he really wanted their endorsement. And right now, about 1.3 million, I should say, members are getting ready to vote on who they want to back as president. I think these comments certainly make that not impossible, but perhaps more unlikely, DeMarco.
Rachel, I want to get your take on this. ABC News sources share with ABC News that details of a visit Trump made to the Teamsters headquarters earlier this year, first reported by ABC News, by the way, which sources say was an effort to woo meeting attendees with labor-friendly views and a promise of political access. That's if the Teamsters went on to endorse him. So what are you hearing from your sources about this?
Yeah, DeMarco, a great scoop from our colleague Max Zahn here at ABC, who has new details about this January meeting. As you said, it happened at their headquarters with Donald Trump. And excuse me, as I look down at my notes here about some of these great details he has. He says, in the Teamsters Quarterly magazine, which obviously comes out 4 times a year, people who were at this meeting said that Trump offered a, quote, seat at the table in return for this endorsement. Basically, if they back him, they're going to have more access to him in a second Trump administration to shape policy. Trump also praised union contracts, according to our colleague Max Zahn, and said collective bargaining has protected workers amid inflation challenges. Now, this is all noteworthy because the Republican Party traditionally has been pretty tough on unions, and Donald Trump has very much tried to soften that. But as Max also notes in his story, Donald Trump himself, when he was president, he did take a number of policy positions that were contrary to unions and actually that unions did not like. So we should also mention that this is not the first time we've seen reporting about Donald Trump making various promises to different groups if they were to give him support for his reelection. He did this with business leaders here in Washington. You just had a segment where you talked on tax on tips or getting rid of the taxes on tips. This is very much aimed at voters in Nevada, who he needs to win that state. And a lot of them get a lot of their salaries from tips. And so obviously, this is politics. We see this sort of all the time, but the sort of blatant horse trading here is sometimes a shock to people, including ourselves who cover politics, DeMarco.
You're right about that. 2 to 3 times this week. That's good for me. Just good to see you, Rachel. We appreciate it. Rachel Bade again.